There is a tree that once flavored every glass of root beer on every American table. A tree so valuable that 16th century merchants paid more per pound for it than they paid for silver. A tree that kept soldiers alive, healed the dying, and built the first American export economy before a single cotton bale ever crossed the Atlantic. Indigenous peoples had understood this tree for 12,000 years. They called it by names that meant life, warmth, and medicine. Then, in 1960, a government agency made it illegal to flavor your food with it. And by the 1980s, another agency had made it a controlled substance. Not because it harmed anyone, because it could be grown by anyone, harvested by anyone, and used by anyone entirely for free. What cannot be patented cannot be sold. What cannot be sold will be erased. This is the hidden story of sassafras. The artificial flavoring industry, a $22 billion empire, depends on you never tasting the real thing. When the FDA banned Safrole in 1960, root beer manufacturers did not mourn, they celebrated. Because the replacement, a patented synthetic compound sold by the barrel, created a lasting dependency they could charge for forever. Sassafras cannot be patented. It grows wild across 30 states. It spreads freely and without permission. That is precisely why it had to go. Welcome to Hidden Herbcraft. Before we open this vault, if these stories matter to you, the best way to preserve this wisdom is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these vaults with those who need to remember what we forgot. The archive opens in the forests of eastern Virginia in 1607. A group of English colonists, half-starved and disoriented, stumbles into a woodland unlike anything they have encountered. The Powhatan people, who have lived in this land for more than 12,000 years, watch from the tree line. Then, quietly, they help. They lead the colonists to a particular tree, tall, fragrant, with leaves that grow in 3 distinct shapes on the same branch. A mitten, a 3-pronged fork, a simple oval. The Powhatan call it winauk. They strip bark from its roots and press it into the cracked, fevered hands of dying men. The bark smells of anise and citrus. Sharp, warm, medicinal. The colonists write of it in wonder. Captain John Smith records in his 1608 journal that the Powhatan Indians actively helped settlers dig and carry sassafras root. He notes its applications for fever, inflammation, and the ague killing men by the dozen. By 1610, sassafras root had become the second largest export from the Jamestown colony, shipped to England by the ton, at prices rivaling pepper and frankincense. European physicians were calling it the miracle wood of the New World. But the Powhatan had not discovered sassafras. They had always known it. So had the Cherokee, who brewed its root bark into a warming tea they called colonial. So had the Choctaw of the lower Mississippi, who ground its dried leaves into a fine powder called filé and used it to thicken their stews and heal their sick. The Cherokee treated what they called thick, heavy blood. Modern science calls that chronic inflammation. The knowledge was never lost, only taken. Sassafras albidum is a mid-canopy tree native to the eastern United States, growing from Maine south to Florida and west through Kansas. It stands between 30 and 60 feet at maturity, with bark that fractures into reddish-brown ridges, rough like old leather. Its leaves grow in 3 unmistakable shapes: a mitten, a trident, a simple oval, all on the same branch. Scrape the root bark and the smell rises, warm, spiced, like root beer before root beer existed, like anise crossed with cinnamon, and something entirely its own. Underground it spreads through root runners, a silent perennial network, requiring no replanting, no seed purchase, and no permission. We travel now to 16th century Europe. The year is 1536. Syphilis has been moving through the continent for 4 decades. By conservative estimates, more than 1 million Europeans are already dead. There is no treatment. no cure. The disease progresses, sores, nerve damage, madness, death. It kills kings, clergy, and common soldiers by the tens of thousands. Then, word reaches Seville from the New World. Indigenous peoples in the eastern forests of North America have been treating this exact disease with the bark of a tree, the bark of what they call whynock. Ships sail west. They return with sassafras root in their holds by the ton. By 1560, sassafras is prescribed across Spain, France, England, and Portugal as the primary treatment for syphilis. A Spanish surgeon named Nicolas Monardes publishes a detailed account in 1574, documenting its use as a febrifuge, a blood purifier, and an anti-inflammatory. The book is translated into English under the title Joyful News Out of the Newfound World. Not metaphor, not marketing, that is the literal title. Joy from a tree. The demand grows so intense that sassafras becomes one of the most expensive commodities in Europe. Ships carrying it are attacked by pirates mid-Atlantic. Sir Francis Drake raids Spanish coastal settlements specifically to seize sassafras stores. Now we move forward nearly 3 centuries. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Confederate soldiers in the besieged Deep South are cut off from all pharmaceutical supplies. Medical shortages kill more men than bullets. Doctors turn to the forests. Sassafras root tea becomes a battlefield staple, used to reduce fever, treat inflammation, and provide warmth through cold months in the field. A soldier from Georgia writes in a diary entry dated March 1863 that sassafras tea was the only medicine his unit possessed for 6 consecutive weeks. Not one man in his company died of fever during that time. After the war ended, soldiers who survived on sassafras abandoned it. They associated it with poverty, with siege, with shame. The tree that saved them became the tree they refused to name. That reversal is not coincidence. It is a pattern. Saffrole, the primary aromatic compound in sassafras root bark, belongs to the phenylpropene family, the same class as eugenol in cloves and estragol in basil. But sassafras offers more than saffrole. The leaves, used as filé powder, are nutritionally significant. 100 grams of dried sassafras leaves delivers approximately 55 calories, 4 grams of protein, and notable concentrations of calcium, potassium, and magnesium. More calcium per dried gram than spinach. More potassium per serving than a banana. The anti-inflammatory properties have been studied formally. A 2014 investigation published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology confirmed that sassafras bark extracts show measurable inhibition of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Research from North Carolina State University found that saffrole-free sassafras extract demonstrated antioxidant activity comparable to vitamin C. Sassafras also contains camphor, tannins, and mucilage, compounds that function as a natural thickener, fever reducer. Ecologically, sassafras is a pioneer species. It colonizes depleted, compacted, disturbed soil, the kind industrial agriculture leaves behind. Its roots loosen hardpan earth. Its fallen leaves build humus. It does not consume its environment. It regenerates it. No fertilizer, no irrigation, no purchased input of any kind. Folk medicine, validated by science. Abundance, requiring no purchase order. So why does the USDA Extension Service still publish active eradication guides for this tree? They did not suppress sassafras because it failed. They suppressed it because it succeeded without them. In 1960, the FDA invoked the Delaney Clause, a provision of the 1958 Food Additives Amendment, to ban saffrole as a food additive. The evidence was a rat study in which animals were force-fed massive doses of saffrole oil, quantities no human would consume in a lifetime over an extended period. Some rats developed liver tumors. On this basis, saffrole was classified as a carcinogen. and removed from every commercial food and beverage in the United States. Sassafras could not be patented. No company owned it. No company profited from it. So no company lobbied to defend it. The artificial flavoring industry moved immediately. Methyl salicylate, a synthetic compound, was positioned as the replacement root beer flavor. Companies including International Flavors and Fragrances, today a corporation with revenues exceeding $12 billion annually, supplied synthetic flavor formulas to every major beverage manufacturer. Where a backyard tree had once provided flavor for free, now there was a supply chain, a contract, a recurring purchase order, dependency. That is the model. Then, in the 1980s, the DEA identified safrole as a chemical precursor in the illicit synthesis of MDMA. The DEA did not distinguish between the grandmother brewing sassafras, tea, and the underground chemist. Safrole was added to the list I Chemicals Registry alongside precursors to heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. Possession with apparent intent became a federal offense. A crop that heals and flavors without permission is dangerous to systems built on dependency. It cannot generate annual seed revenue. It requires no fertilizer. It needs no herbicide. It spreads without machinery. It cannot create farmer dependency. And it is too nutritious and medicinal to justify selling supplements alongside it. The USDA Extension Office in multiple states has published formal documents advising landowners to remove sassafras from their properties. Not because the tree is invasive, not because it harms native species, because it spreads without being planted, feeds without being purchased, and heals without requiring permission from anyone. In the logic of industrial agriculture, that makes it a weed. In any older logic, that makes it a gift. Half the world never forgot. The other half was taught to poison it. In Louisiana, the Choctaw and their descendants still harvest sassafras leaves every autumn, drying them on wooden racks as their ancestors have for centuries. The powder they produce, filé, appears on every authentic gumbo recipe in the state, sold openly in New Orleans markets by its Choctaw name. In Japan, the related sassafras randiance continues in traditional medicine practice. In China, sassafras variants are catalogued in the Bencao Gangmu, the great 16th century pharmacopoeia compiled by Li Shizhen. In Mexico, sassafras, adjacent bark, called Canela del País, still circulates in local healing tradition. And it is returning here too. Permaculture practitioners plant sassafras corridors across the eastern United States. Foragers document wild stands online. University programs that once published eradication guides now study its soil restoration properties. At Appalachian farmers markets, dried sassafras bark appears beside elderflower and black walnut. The archive is opening again. Climate change is not coming. It is here, drought spreading across the American South. Heat records shattering every summer. Floods rewriting river maps. All of it accelerating faster than the crops feeding 8 billion people can adapt. Corn requires 24 inches of rainfall per growing season. Wheat requires 15. Industrial agriculture was engineered for stability. That stability is ending. Sassafras was born in chaos. It colonizes disturbed soil and forest edges where nothing else establishes. It survives without irrigation. It spreads without cultivation. No purchased input required. When the industrial food system fractures, sassafras will be where it has always been. Rooted, perennial, patient, ready for 12,000 years. Every American child who drank root beer before 1960 tasted it. They did not know what they were tasting. They did not know they were drinking the knowledge of the Powhatan, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, 12,000 years of relationship between a people and a tree, distilled into something cold and simple. They just knew it was good. The tree is still there. still growing along creek beds from Maine to Florida, still sending runners into disturbed ground, still offering fragrance, free of charge, to anyone who knows what they are looking at. We did not lose sassafras, we just forgot it. The Powhatan knew its name. The Cherokee knew its medicine. The Choctaw knew its powder. Soldiers survived on its tea. Children drank it without knowing. Perennial, patient, waiting. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Hidden Harvest and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon.